So hello folks, we are just waiting on Maura Rath, who's just going to join us very shortly.
Hi.
Maura, how are you keeping?
Not too bad. I think we are connected. Yes.
We are live, which is fantastic.
How
Listen,
are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Maura. How are you keeping?
Flying it. It's nice and warm out. It's good. It's a bit humid, but I'm happy.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. Bit of summer heat, so we'll take any bit of it that we can. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. Um,
Thank you for asking me for the chat. I'm all about
I,
the chat, so let's do
yeah,
it.
absolutely. Likewise. And I know we're going to have a great chat. And maybe before we kick in, just for those who are joining, just a tiny bit of context as to why Moira and me are here. So, like, first and foremost, I'm delighted to be joined by Maura Rath, maybe known also as Yoga with Moira, who's been keeping people across the country good and grounded since lockdown has come in, and before that clearly as well. So look, why we're here. Well, look, I'm John Slattery. My business is Inspo, and Inspo is all about inspiring people to make good choices. Sometimes people ask me, "Come here, John, what does that actually mean, like in reality?" Well, look, just very briefly before Maura and me chat, it's things like over the lockdown, I've done talk for 150 interns for a company on how to make a good career choice. I've been working one-to-one coaching with people who've used this period of lockdown as a transformative period and wanted to engage a coach to do so. And just lastly, as an example, myself and a mindfulness teacher have set up the Rise Wellness program, which we've piloted during lockdown to help people be able to respond best to whatever life presents them. I'm delighted to say that in mid-September we'll launch it formally for the first time, so stay tuned. So that's a bit about Inspo. Why are we having these conversations? So why are Maura and me here today? Well, I guess the road to new normal conversations are to do two things. Around 6 weeks ago when I started this, so this is the sixth edition, I kind of recognized that for myself and a lot of people, this wasn't easy. Like, we've never been in lockdown before. So I just felt it would be good to chat about our experience and particularly to speak to people in the public domain like Maura Rath. So I guess that's one reason. And then the second reason is we are all trying to stay good and grounded at the moment and finding ways to stay good and grounded. And I suppose I'm particularly delighted to have Maura here just to share her own perspectives, given that she's doing such a great job of helping others to stay good and grounded. Yeah, maybe a little piece around what helps you yourself to stay good and grounded.
Yeah.
So I guess more to kick in, right? I have to tell you, I was reading a book. I'm reading a book at the moment called Legacy, which is about the New Zealand rugby team. And I know you spent a good bit of time in New Zealand.
Good few years there. Yeah.
Well, there was a quote I read this morning, and I straight away thought of you. Right? So it's a quote from Charles Darwin, and it says, "It's not the strongest species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the ones most responsive to change."
Oh, I
Now,
like that. I'm gonna have to take that down after. That's
yeah,
really
I'd be
good.
delighted to send it on to you because I think it sums up brilliantly what you helped people do. Because in early March, in mid March,
I'm definitely not the strongest or the smartest, but that's brilliant.
you're also humble should be in
Uh,
there too. So you like everyone was wondering how are we going to get exercise in, how are we going to make this work, and then you came along with yoga with Maura and answered that question for so many people and helped them adapt. For those Maura who maybe are less familiar with yourself with yoga with Maura, could you just maybe give people a bit of a flavor how this all kicked off for you in early mid-March?
Yeah, so I have probably been teaching yoga about close to 3 years now, and I was not online at all. I had always thought about getting a YouTube channel going and share my bits online, but the weeks just go, the months just go, and then literally I think it was a Wednesday or a Thursday in March, back in March. It feels like years ago now. And that I was teaching a school that morning, and one of the students were like, "Oh, we think the schools are going to close today." And I was like, "What? That's mad." Anyway, long story short, that night I went home and I was just like, feck, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to teach yoga? Schools are closed, everything's closed. And I just kind of thought, you know what, it's 2 weeks. I just put it on my Instagram. I said, "Oh, anybody interested in just doing some free live yoga to keep us moving in this really weird time?" Because for me, when something happens or in my life, obviously a pandemic has never happened before, I always just take to my mat, and that's my place where if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 minute, if I sit on my mat, do a down dog or just practice and breathe, that's when I kind of feel like grounded, safe, and kind of restart myself. So probably a little bit of my own panic mode was like, I need yoga. other people probably need yoga. So I just put it out there that evening, and then I couldn't believe it. Within like a few minutes, loads of people like, loads of my regulars that I was teaching in Black Rock weekly were like, oh, we'd love that more, it'll keep us going. And I was like, grand, I'll do it for 2 weeks. And then I tuned in on Monday morning a few days after, and I just had this massive tune in. And then every day more people were joining, and I was like, okay, people are actually loving this. And then, to be honest, it kept me sane. Like, I'm someone that, even though I'm all about the Zen and yoga is a massive part of my life, my private life and my work life, I'm always going. So, and a routine is really important for me. So I just felt every day, for the first, I think 6 weeks I did, maybe it was, yeah, the first 6 weeks I did 8:30 a.m. and 5 p.m. every day. And it just started and finished my work day, and just did it out there. And it was amazing. And the community that I built from it, and nothing, it was supposed to be 2 weeks. I ended up doing it for like 13, 14 weeks. And now I'm completely online. So, to be honest, it's the COVID has obviously been such a hard time, but being completely honest, it's been a bit of a gift for me as well, to give me a push to go online. So I could talk about it all day. So yeah, that's kind of where it all just developed. That's a
well, it was amazing to see, just like, I mean, the masses of people who just took up the classes you were doing on Instagram Live, or picking them up on YouTube after, and then, like, I guess just looking back through, like, say online, you had like Irish Examiner, Irish Times writing about you, the Sun, Gloss magazine, just to name a few, who just were just taken aback by what you were offering, and to what positive impact it was having. And perhaps maybe just even to pick one point, I know you did a June challenge to try and invite people onto their mat, and to kind of practice and develop yoga through the month of June with you. And I understand that, like, there was, on the first Monday, maybe like 370 odd people for the first class. So I just to get what's going through your mind as you're there on your Monday morning, and you just literally see that number.
Honestly, I actually, luckily when I'm teaching on Zoom, I have a camera, so I don't see the numbers, but I see people booked in. And to be honest, I'm really nervous, because that is a number, the biggest class I would have taught at an event before all this would have been 50. And that would have been a big event, you know, that I did for someone, or I did an outdoor event for International Yoga Day last year. I think there was 60 at it, and I think that was my record. And to just think, if I overthink it, I'm like, oh my God, there's that much houses are looking at me, I better not screw up. So, you know, the real nerves are real, but I try not to like think of the numbers or anything like that. But when I just literally, I actually just pretend there's about 10 people in front of me. So I pretend, I almost visualize people are in the room with me when I'm teaching, and that's how it works for me. And if I just think of a familiar face that I have taught yoga to over the last couple of years, that's how I do it. And I think some people said to me, like, a little bit of the feedback was, oh, I feel like I'm really in the room with you. And I was like, maybe that's because I pretend people are in the room, like I'm still laughing at my own bad jokes, and you know, that kind of thing. I think you were on one morning, John, where I was mute for 40 minutes on a Saturday morning 75-minute class, and I just had to. I think you were on that morning.
I was indeed, and what struck me was, like, you basically had sort of almost like two groups of people. You had one group which was like, look, like, Maura's on mute and she doesn't know she's on mute, so we may as well just continue on, and you can see her, you just can't hear her. And in fact, for some people, it might have been the best class, because they became self-taught in that 20. And then some people did actually, I think, just kind of have a page for the whole time, who just were really, Maura, you're on mute was written on the page. So, but well, look, what was brilliant about that, and I want to touch on this in a sec, but you know, from chatting to you just briefly as we've had in the lead up to this, like, you know, there's something around fun and an element of just lightheartedness about the way you go about yourself, like, and like just this element of fun. And it's how much is that a part of you, and how does it help you in terms of just staying good, grounded?
To be honest, I probably, like, laughter is a massive part of my life. And most of the time I'm laughing at myself, but I just having the crack is what it's all about, you know, and obviously it's really important to respect the natural and the historic beliefs of yoga and everything, but I just bring a little bit of humor in, you know, we all wobble, we all fall, if we give it our best go. And for me, like if I smile through something, and I can't help myself, you know, I don't take myself too seriously, I suppose. And I just think there's one thing as well is that I felt that there's obviously so much negativity in the air, and I just wanted to make my classes specifically not talk about the pandemic, not talk about COVID, and it's just, how are you today? You know, simple chat and have a laugh at the end if I unmute or mute or whatever happens. And I think maybe that's what people felt, a little escape from it as well.
Yeah, from having attended some of your classes, I would say most definitely yes. And what's very striking about you, more the yoga teacher, is like the energy you bring, the consistent energy, and say the lightheartedness, like, and to be able to do that, like day in day out on screen multiple times a day, like Amy Mallon, who was the second guest on the Road to New Normal, who's in the band Laboom, who I love, said, I really enjoy separating, and lockdown has helped her to go, look, this is Amy Mallon Laboom, but I need to invest in Amy. I just need to come back and invest in myself. What's the formula that you have, Maura, to invest in yourself then that allows you get onto the mat and be that person that people across the nation have been going to for support and help?
And that's when you kind of mentioned that yesterday to me, like, you know, what do you do for you? And I kind of had to think for a minute, and I think the first thing I was thought of was like, I nap. And for me, like, you know, I am quite you know, I do have a lot of energy, but when I feel tired, I definitely feel tired, you know. So if I don't, after a class, like I turn off the camera, I sometimes will just lie for 15 minutes, close my eyes, and I just take it all in, have that little moment. Some might say it's kind of getting into, I don't class it as my meditation, but it's kind of like a little meditative place where I just lie, recharge. Like I definitely charge my batteries a couple times a day, because some days, you know, I teach 4 or 5 classes, and to be able to go from class to class to class and bring the same energy and bring your whole self to each class, I have to either get outside and get away from the screens, which is hard, and if it's fresh air, like I'm such an outdoors person, like even a walk, and I'm living at the foot of Ticknock, so I was very lucky over lockdown. I know some people were stuck to around concrete, but even just getting up that road towards Ticknock, and I'm around the trees, I see a few cows, I just start again.
so fresh air and just that resting.
Rest and like sleep is so important. And actually before lockdown, probably a lot of yoga teachers will probably say this as well, like I was a yogi on wheels. So you probably wouldn't even think about it, but I was driving from studio to studio, to work. So I actually spent more hours in my car than I did, you know, commute back and forth. You know, you could be 40 minutes going to town, or else I'd get the Dart or the bus or whatever. And I would be all day traveling, and it was, you know, you're on the go, you can't switch off when you're in the car. So lockdown has actually given me more time to like kind of savor my energy. And I don't even think I knew I was that tired before lockdown. So I suppose people are probably, you know, if every day 30 minutes class I teach is amazing, I give all my energy, but I used to be teaching a class at 6:15 a.m. and, you know, traipsing across the city to a class, and then for another one maybe at 9:30. So but now my energy is definitely like a lot more, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, okay, so that less of A to B, the transit has been, so you've just got, you've taken that out. Okay, may I ask, like, you're like, you know, incredibly feels like a naturally positive person, and you know, you've got the benefit of less transit in lockdown. What may have been the more challenging things that you might have encountered in your experience of lockdown? Like for me, uncertainty was one big one, just work, not knowing, you know, access to relationships, and when I get that, not knowing. How about you, Maura, I guess?
The
Just to,
biggest thing for me and the most negative part of lockdown was people. Like it's just myself and my fiance that I live with. Like
yeah,
he's great, but you know yourself. Like, and I feed off other people's energy,
yeah,
and I feed off chats. Like I love to have the chats, and there's only so much if you're on Zoom talking to your friends and I'm working from Zoom. Like I just miss seeing my friends. I have a massive family, and we're really close. I've got 5 brothers. We're in each other's business every second day. We're seeing each other. So the hardest part, and I did get quite down at sometimes, was just not seeing family. And that first time I drove down to Wexford, I felt like I was flying home from living away for 2 years. It was just amazing. So yeah, definitely the hardest part was the human connection. I
yeah.
look that I did live with one person. I know some people are on their own, and but you can't beat, hugging your parents or that kind of thing.
Absolutely, and I guess there's probably a benefit then to feel that you're part of even a virtual community that you've created. Then not
Yeah.
just for yourself, but for the people who join. And I see a lot of people joined, and I think it was Nicola said that she felt your classes were amazing, and especially as a healthcare worker. And thanks for everyone who's checking in here. Um, one thing I know is very important to you about, like, just in terms of staying good, grounded, and making the most of life is manifestation. Okay. So like I am fascinated by it. However, I'd have to say, like, up until very recently, I even kind of struggled with what actually the word meant, and I don't know that I fully grasped it either. For the people who are watching who may not, like, in the most simple terms, what would you describe manifestation as?
I suppose the most simple way would probably be like creating something from scratch yourself for you. So a big part of manifestation is the belief in something as well. And then if you have the belief, then you're more than likely going to manifest it to come true.
Okay.
So like, I suppose probably better to give like examples, like, manifesting like relationships. You can manifest friendships, and some people might think of I'm going to manifest the lotto numbers. I'm going to get the right numbers now. Like, and there is some people that think like that, but for me, I feel like I manifest everything I have. I believe I've manifested, and not everything. Obviously there's some things that just happen, but I do feel like yeah, definitely, like I just feel like if you don't put it out there to the universe, like how are you supposed to receive anything that you want if you don't believe that you deserve it? But then it's also the work behind it as well. So yeah, is that making sense?
It does indeed. It makes perfect sense. And the thing I love about it, so there's two things. So yeah, like there's almost two questions. One is like, how can we use manifestation positively in lockdown, and particularly as we head on this road to new normal?
Yeah, so the thing I feel like with this lockdown is, and with your question there, is that a lot of us are kind of fixated on what we think we should have. Okay, so you think you should have the nice car, this, that, I should be married, I should be this, I should have the kids. These are all the things that society is like, it's bred into us. We want to follow what your parents did, or your friends are doing, all that kind of thing. But you have to actually find what gives you joy. So this time, which is a little bit slower, is a time for you to kind of explore those little hobbies that you have, and all the things that actually really bring you joy. So yoga, this is going back to yoga, is all about finding just complete and utter honest joy. So finding the things in this time that is joyful, or whatever you want to bring into your life, what's really important. And like, I feel like connection and people is a lot what most people miss. And then when you know what is really important for you, and then you actually believe that it's important for you, and you believe that you're worth getting it and receiving it, that's when you can manifest it.
Okay.
Maybe I didn't answer your question there.
You did, and now I'm kind of intrigued. Does it come from your head? Does it come from your heart? Does it come from your gut?
I believe it comes from your heart and your gut.
Okay. Now,
like a lot, our head can confuse us.
okay, and we spend a lot of times in our head, right? Like, so how how do we get from our head to our heart and our gut to spend time enough there to be able to manifest the things that you're talking about and then be able to own them ourselves? Because it can be tricky. I don't know about your experience, but for me, and I think a lot of people, it can be tricky to go to the heart and gut.
It is like stripping it back to basics. That's how I feel. Like, like our phones, like you're stuck in your head with your eyes when you're scrolling on your phone. We're comparing ourselves. We're looking up what we think looks cool or what we should do, or this, what's Patty doing and what's this girl doing, and they're so happy, and that's all in our head. But like stripping it back to like what makes you feel good, like what food makes you feel good, what like people make you feel good, like your heart. People sometimes think it has to be just about love for someone else, but it's all about yourself. So really stripping it back, like I just think like you're into sea swimming, and I just feel like for me, I grew up in Wexford. I grew up sea swimming. My mom she's a sea mermaid. Always since we were kids, we were always in the sea. That's our childhood, was just beach, swimming. And for me, I feel like that sea is a really good way now of kind of, just making you just have a little boost of life, and to kind of show how like your little worries don't really mean anything if you just look across a big empty sea in the ocean. Like it kind of puts things in perspective.
It does, like, and to be like, and I do love the sea, and I think it's brilliant for probably clearing out the head and maybe allowing access to think elsewhere, to connect elsewhere. So I loved what you said. Okay, it's one. See, one of the things about this chat is hopefully we can maybe just as you and I chat, maybe other people might get some ideas as to how they can continue this journey as well as they can to this new normal. So one is to try and, okay, go for the head and the heart and the gut and try and explore what to manifest, what they want to bring to life. But you mentioned this yesterday when we were chatting on the phone. You've mentioned again the hard work to bring it to life. So I
Yeah.
sometimes find if I say, oh yeah, I want that, but number one, I kind of just say, yeah, now it's going to happen. And like quite often it doesn't, Maura. And then you could get very frustrated because why isn't it happening? So what is this hard work that you're referring to?
I would say that there's a secret potion.
Okay. Okay, I'm now very interested.
No, the hard work for me is like consistency. Like, we all start things and do it one day and we're like, oh my God, that was the best ever. And then we don't do it again. It's for me, like there's days here where it's raining and it's cold, like yourself, and you do not feel like getting off that couch. You could just put on Netflix for a couple of hours, but instead you get up, you get your towel and you scream and you get in the water. And like simple things like that, like getting up to do a yoga class, like that's putting work in for yourself.
Okay.
Going for a walk, spending, it might be someone, your parents that you haven't actually spent a bit of time with, just going home and listening to someone. Like all these kind of things through human connection, through outdoors. I'm not telling everyone they need to roll out their yoga mat to find themselves. Like just like stripping it back and then putting time in for things like that. Like that's the work. It's not easy to go for a walk every day.
Yeah.
It's not easy to get up before your day of work and do an exercise or do a class. Like it takes consistency. Like I don't know about you, but who likes their alarm going off at 6 a.m.? Like I feel like, I feel like, it goes off and you're like, oh my God, it's the morning here already. But you have to just get up. You have to push yourself. I'm not saying that you have to be on the go all the time. If it means for you, if you're, an absolute gym bunny and you're working out and you're sweating, maybe you just need to sit in peace, like outside for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So putting that work in, does that make sense?
It absolutely does. Like, and then in terms of the manifestations as well, like, is it the same with that? Do you like, how do you have to be consistent about believing that the same things that you
Yeah.
want to bring into life?
Like if you today you are like, you feel like, you know what, I actually want to go and I want to work with people. I want to be a public speaker, and that's what I want to do today. And I am so happy that that's what I want to do. And then tomorrow you wake up and you're, oh, it'd be just really handy if, I just had a salary coming in, like I actually might just apply for that job there now, geez, that's great. That's great salary. I wouldn't have to worry about it. And then you go, whatever, and then the next day you're back on the height of this. Like you have to remember what you want
Yeah.
maybe there's nothing, a salary job is amazing, you know, you've got a lot of security.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
actually being clear what you want. Sometimes we like, I feel like a lot of us, including myself, we have our fingers in so many pots. You know,
Yeah.
we want all this kind of stuff for us. We want that wholesome life, but like really stripping it back, spending the time what you really, really, really want and what you like actually, yeah, want.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm sure there's people here who are probably thinking, look, I don't spend enough time thinking about that, and perhaps then there's some people now who maybe lockdown has been a catalyst to ask that question, yet still are trying to find out the answer. Just out of curiosity, let's just say I think back in New Zealand, if I'm right, that you were kind of working in more say conventional office jobs, let's say, what process, what did you go through to allow yourself to decide more that, you know what, actually, this is what I want. I want to be a yoga teacher, because it might help some people who maybe are at a similar kind of
Yeah.
position.
To be honest, it was a really long process. Like I moved to New Zealand in about 2011, I think it was. It was just after the earthquakes happened there, and it wasn't long out of college. You know, long story short, I did art and design in college, something completely different. Didn't know what the hell I was at. You know, there's no job you can get from this. You know, I just sorry there. I think my
That's
battery
okay.
popped up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so long story short, and then I was working this, I was probably in the job about 6 years, 6 or 7, about 6 years for an insurance, kind of like a government insurance. Anyone that's from New Zealand will know ACC. And it was a great job, really good salary, really good people. But, you know, there was nothing about that job that made me like excited about it. You know, I love the people that I worked with. I'm still friends with all of them now. You know, the work culture I had was the crack. Like every day it was just banter in the office, mischief, all that kind of stuff behind the scenes. But the actual work, you know, it was just, for me, it was, you know, it was a lot of data entry. It was a lot of just repetitive stuff, and nothing that really excited me. So the job was great. The job was able to feed my travel habits, you know, my drinking habits, my socializing, and my yoga. Okay. And then when I was about maybe when I moved to New Zealand, I did no exercise or anything like that. I used to swim, horse ride as a kid. That was it. And I was started to run my first year there, and I was really just so tight after running all the time. My hips were at me, and you know, I was running like quite long distance, and then someone was like, oh, I need to try yoga. And I was like, oh, sure, I'll just go. I went to one class, and it was a Bikram yoga class. Don't know if you've ever done that. It's
No.
42 degrees heat. Sure, I vomited after the class. I was like, what the hell? What the hell? But I actually felt good, but I felt, oh my God, I'm so stiff. So a bit of curiosity. Bikram wasn't for me. Went to a different yoga teacher, and then a week or two later, a friend of mine, very last minute, we went to a yoga retreat weekend, and I was like, oh my God, I love this. This is something different. You know, I was a bit stressed out in work. I go to a yoga class and I felt great after it. I felt like I could take over the world. I could do this. So it started quite gradual, and then the more yoga I did, and I connected with a few teachers, like this amazing teacher in Auckland, Lizzie. I like still love her so much. She's like my idol, and it was something she said one day, and I just was after the class, I just stepped back and I was like, I really want to go and be a yoga teacher. I want to do what you're doing. And she was like, oh my God, you need to go here. And she told me the name of the school in India. And 3 years later, I went to the school, and yeah, like it took a lot. Like I planned to leave a few times, and then different things would happen. You know, I had different things on, and I was like, oh. And then when I went to go when I left in New Zealand, I went to do my teacher training as well. I didn't actually think I'd be a full-time teacher. Like I actually thought that I would do it on the side. That'll give me a little bit of zen, but I'll keep my insurance. I'll keep, you know, I need to get a mortgage. I need to have a full-time job and all that kind of stuff. So and then when I finished my teacher training, I went for a month to India, ended up staying 3 months. I was like, I can't go back to an office. Like, I need to teach people yoga. And that's literally how it started, and now I'm here.
Okay, and which kind of makes it shows that it can be quite a fluid thing. Like, one, you just connect with a passion, and then it's a bit of a fluid journey to try and explore. And perhaps this is a bit of exploration that's required from listening to your story. Just you were just trying something different, and it just connected. It seems.
That's it. I could have never predicted this ever. Like
Okay.
that, working in fitness wasn't something for me. Like I didn't even like. I loved wellness. I was always very open to new things people were doing, or I'd hear about this or that. But I never thought that I would make it a career. And yeah, it's been really great. But I suppose another thing that I want to kind of touch on, people might see everything as being so easy and so great, but like there's days where it's crap for me, and I'm like, you're kind of stressed out, you're trying to answer this, you're trying to, I'm on my mat and I'm trying to create a flow, and then there's nothing coming to me, and I'm like, how am I going to do this, and you go through that, and then I suppose it's like that little check-in for me. If I recharge the sea, fresh air, I feel like we can always have spirals like of negativity or whatever, but it's about snapping out of it, like
Okay.
it's normal to have a crap day, a crap week, a crap year, but come back,
Okay.
and through practices, through movement, through whatever you do.
Okay. It just sounds like those go-to things, like the sea, the walks, the mat.
Yeah,
They seem to be important on good days and challenging days.
yeah, and I know definitely for me, and saying all that, like my fiance, for him, when he's had a stressful day he's on a computer all day, he'll kill me for saying this now, but he wants to play computer games after it. And I'm like, but that's what his practice is. And if he
Okay.
goes and just veggies out on that, like there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not judging that, but just goes to show, like he'll just do that for 20 minutes, do whatever he does, and then, or maybe a couple of hours, whatever they do,
Yeah.
come back. So it doesn't have to be like all this. But then saying that, I definitely think when he's in the sea, he's in better form.
Okay. Okay, well, that's a share. You have that shared anyway. It sounds
Yeah,
like the computer games is his own bit, and it just probably goes to show how unique we all are. Like we
yeah,
just have to find our own solutions and strategies to minding ourselves. There's what last week we talked to Tomas O'Shea, the Kerry footballer, and all these talks, by the way, for anyone who's maybe this is the first Road to New Normal talk, they're on the my website, which is www.inspo.ie. Tommaso Shea talked about like failure, and he was unbelievably honest. And he just described himself having an unhealthy relationship with failure, and he was really open about it. Um, my sense is that for you, you actually have a very positive kind of grasp on failure. Am I
yeah,
right, first and foremost?
yeah. Like I think so. I suppose as well as like the positive grasp on it, I always feel like if I fail at something, that's great, but I won't stop there though, there's kind of like, it wasn't meant for me, there was a different path, and I'll do something else. Like if something doesn't work out, I have to do something else. If that makes sense. Like I keep
Okay.
saying it makes sense, but sometimes I feel like I find it hard to express myself. But yeah, like depends on what kind of failure, like there's many different like say if a corporate client has come to me and asked me to do class and I've given them a quote and then you never hear back, or you do one class with them and then you don't hear back and then they don't sign up, like you can't take those things as like they're failures, but they're not really failures as well. Like you just learn from it and move on.
Yeah, but is that true? Is that something you were born with, or is it something that you've managed to kind of develop over time? Because for a lot of us, well, I speak for myself. Yeah, sometimes I can get a little bit knocked back by the failure. Let's say, um, is it? Would you say you were born with it, Maura, or do you feel you've kind of like
Uh,
grown that developed ability?
I definitely feel like I've become a lot more confident now than I was, in my teen years and that kind of stuff. I've kind of developed over it, but I probably I'm born with it. I don't know. I think that like I don't really think we're born with it. I think it's a choice as well. Like you know, you could be born into any kind of family, you know, or, you know, I feel like if you were adopted and then, you know, you were born into whatever, I don't know. I feel like it's definitely a choice. I think like born with it might be something what people say that aren't working on being really positive. Well, she was
Yeah.
born with that.
Yeah, no point trying because she's had that since day one.
There's
I,
the element of how I was brought up as well, maybe.
okay.
Like, you know, like I feel like, you know, I'd say a little bit of, yeah, influence, who I've been influenced by, who you're around, like,
Yeah.
as well as being born with it. Like, you know, you can kind of, my dad definitely is so positive. Like, he is a gas man and he does not take life too seriously. I actually shared him a few times on my Instagram and people seem to love it. And he's just like a farmer. Like, he doesn't have a farm, but he is totally a farmer, has just a few cows and bits, and he has a shop, and his just outlook on life is just always to laugh. You know, he laughs at
Yeah.
himself, laughs at everyone. But it's a choice for him as well, you know? So I feel like it is a choice.
And the choice. Okay, I'd say we've maybe two questions left because I'm conscious that I need you to leave you to go. Choice, right? Like, I don't even know what the question is, but I'm just really curious about your perspective on how we can use choices in life as powerfully as possible.
So this is something for choice, and this is something that kind of hit a little nerve at me when I was doing my yoga teacher training. I had this amazing teacher, Sudhir from India, and he was our philosophy teacher, and we went through choices. And you know, through yoga, there's, you know, it teaches you how to treat yourself, treat others, and one thing that he talked about was, you know, you can choose your mood. You know, so a lot of us choose to be in a bad mood. Okay, and then we're like,
Yeah.
oh no, you put me in a bad mood, or this put me in a bad mood. Okay, and then there's like, so you can kind of look at that from, I think there's different things that happen in the world that can be a reason why you react to things differently, and you can choose. Obviously there's grief and stuff like that which totally throws it out of the water, but in day-to-day things in our life, I actually do, after me being like, I'm not choosing this mood, and then I kind of practice on, you know, if your mood goes up or down and you're like, fuck, maybe I am choosing to be like this, maybe I am just choosing to be a little bit grumpy or a little bit
Mm.
tired, or yeah, that's it can go quite deep into that with yoga. Like, you know, we all have this abundance of energy in us, within us,
Yeah.
and that's a whole nother topic probably.
Well, just the last piece is that then there might be some of us going, that's grammar. But there is sometimes where it's just not our choice. It's not our, like, you know,
Yeah.
like, but, and yet I think if we listen to ourselves, we could probably dispute that for ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
so how do we shift away from the externals causing it to start focusing more on its internal? It's what I decide this to be.
Yeah, like I think that's a big one. Like, how do you, like, it's like just making like obviously if your car is broken down and like 5 crap shit things have happened to you that day, maybe it's okay, you can just choose that mood of, today was a shit day, I'm going to buy a big tub of ice cream and I'm going to do this. But the difference is actually to like snap out of it, you know? So if you have a bad day yesterday, today doesn't have to be a bad day. Even if it's still raining, the car's still broken, or whatever, you can still choose to be a little bit more positive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
like, I think there's probably, and like I know myself, you know, I'll do something and I'll be like, the way I react, like we choose how we react to something, you know, something a family member might have said to you and you fly off the lid, but if your friend said it to you, you wouldn't fly off the lid because you can't probably react to them in the same way. So I think it's definitely, yeah, it's a touchy subject, and I've had this debate with lots of friends of mine, you know, about choosing.
Yeah.
You kind of laugh about it, and then there's times where I was saying it, and then some, you know, I might react to something at home, and then my brother's like, "Oh, so you're choosing to be like that," you know? Like, funny, but it's good to be aware, you know, and put
Yes.
yourself in when you know. But also, if you have a bad day, just have a bad day. That's okay.
Yeah. Okay. There is so much we could go in there, but I love the idea of just being conscious of choice and realizing, can we look at this differently? Um, just lastly, for those who are watching this live, and I see Heather and Cody complimenting again, saying loving your classes. I'm sure there's many more people who feeling the same. If someone's watching this and they're a little bit on the fence about yoga, what advice do you have for them, Maura, as to maybe might get them off the fence and onto the mat to try?
What I would say is just give it a go. And for me personally and for other people, it's about finding a teacher that suits you. Like, I know I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea for yoga. You might prefer a different style teacher. You might prefer a hatha. You might prefer someone that does a lot of handstands, a lot of fire, lots of different things. So if the first yoga class you go to wasn't for you, don't give up. You know, it's good to try again. But maybe it's not vinyasa yoga, ashtanga, maybe it's yin, maybe the meditation side of yoga, that's what you just want to do. But I definitely do believe that there is a little space for everyone, somewhere. If it's sitting, doing, like, meditation is for everyone. That's where, you know, it comes from, through yoga. So yeah, I definitely think just give it a go. If one teacher wasn't your cup of tea, try another, or try a different YouTube channel. And now the beauty of being online, you can actually, like, I'm able to tune into teachers in New Zealand that I missed and I wasn't able to before. So it's really great that lots of people, you know, you can try it online and you can try it in the comfort of your own home.
Uh, so just go explore, find the right teacher, find the right style. I see Kate saying Legends the Perry. There's another compliment coming collectively. Happy days. In terms of how can they go try classes with yoga with Maura? So for anyone who's watching here, what's the best thing for them to do?
Yeah, yogawithmaura.ie. So I have just my name, the website, and or through my Instagram, and it's all on Zoom. And I have classes on every day. So you're welcome to drop in for one. Maybe I'll never see you again, and that's it. But I just always say to people, give it a go. And if I'm not your flavor or style, there's definitely some out there that will be.
Maura Rath, you've been inspiring the nation for the last 5 months. It's been like a brilliant endless inspiration on what you've said here about how we can mind ourselves, how we can choose to view things. So here we go. I think there's going to be a flow of compliments coming your way. So just like continued success to you and to Yoga with Maura. You're doing a great thing for people, and it just so happens that you really enjoy it yourself, and that seems to be the dream setup for any individual.
Thank you, but you too, John. This is amazing. Like, I think these chats are brilliant. That's what people want to hear about now. Like, I think it's such a great idea. So yeah, people have to tune into these chats. It's great. And I still have some to catch up on that you've done, but I'm really good.
Thank you very much, Maura. And I guess with that in mind, in terms of closing off, like if you've enjoyed listening to Maura and myself, perhaps like maybe just consider in terms of what Maura has reflected on, and what might you build into your ability and your strategy to stay good and grounded. There might be things you could explore from what we've heard here. And secondly, maybe consider who you could have a conversation with about your experience of lockdown, just for your own benefit, for the benefit of them, because look, we're all in this together. It's uncharted territory, and if we work and stay together, we'll come out just fine. Thank you all for attending. Maura, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We'll catch you on the mat again soon.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. See you all soon again. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.